It's time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
That's right.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
Welcome, everybody. You're listening to Planet Green Trees, episode number 555.
Wow.
It's a lot.
555.
Triple fives.
We're calling the show.
Lucky.
It is lucky. Show number 555. The title of the show is show number 555. I'm your host, Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLC. We've got a very exciting show, a lot of great topics to go over. Some great people here to help with the entertainment throughout the night, including comedy. Let me announce the possible titles that we're going to be going over here. Of course, I reserve the right to rant at some point. I feel like I got a rant somewhere brewing that may have to come out. Secondly, the Ann Arbor Hash Bash officially back in person this weekend.
Boom.
It's got to be number 50, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
That's what I hear.
Yep.
I think there's some controversy there, though.
All right.
So maybe someone on the line can give us some insight
Somebody that's
into what the
responsible
controversy is.
for everything
Pretty simple.
that we can't hear.
Hash Bash anniversary. 51st annual or 50th anniversary.
Okay. There you go. It's all cleared up now. Cannabis Consumption Lounge opened in Michigan in first ever. See how much Michigan communities will receive from the $172 million in 2021 recreational marijuana tax. And, of course, I want to give a reminder to all of our listeners that Cannajam 2 is in the works. The date of that will be October the 8th, 2022. At Riverside Park in Ypsilanti, our performing lineup has been set. We've got Laith Al-Assadi who's going to be performing, as well as the return of Pink Floyd, Echoes of Pink Floyd, with their laser show and road work. T Money Green and his crew.
Yeah.
T Money Green was on a few weeks ago interviewing him, and
That was a great show.
great show.
It was good.
So let's go around and introduce everybody as we like to do, and then we'll get right into some. I do have other topics we're going to get to because there's a lot of other interesting stuff going on, but really the talk of the talk is the annual Hash Bash. So first, let's acknowledge our bunker boys, Tommy, Justin, and Dan. Thanks for being here. You guys aren't allowed on camera. Any technical problems, of course, they're responsible for. And moving around the room, we've got Jim Powers. Jim Powers join us.
Good evening, Michael. Good evening, everybody. As usual, it's great to be here and excited for the show.
All right, good stuff. I guess moving into the Zoom room, we have appearing from Florida, I think. I don't know, whereabouts unknown. Living in an NFT these days, I understand. You'll have to explain that. But please welcome Amanda Joslin. Amanda Joslin.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the discussion. And yeah, it's gorgeous weather, getting the sea breeze, the ocean breeze. It is going to rain for a couple of days, but that's okay. It's not the same type of rain. So I'm okay with that.
We kind of had the same uniform on tonight. I didn't want to have to do this, but I am wearing some, I think it's some green lantern or green hornet. I don't know, green something. But you look like you got the comparable, one of those characters. Steve would be mad at me for not knowing which one it is, but...
Green Lantern has a bunch of the green stuff, and I think
which
one
is
of
this?
this...
What is this?
Is that the Green Lantern?
I don't know.
It looks like the Green Lantern.
Yeah, the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I got some Green Lantern-esque stuff going on tonight, don't I?
You do. We're going to expect some superhero stuff out of you as well, so...
Okay.
All right, we have my friend and fellow lawyer, brethren of the bar, Schuyler Engel, P number 4... No, P7. I'm kidding.
No, please, no.
But no, it is appearing on the screen. It's funny. It's like because you're prepared for your Zoom call to court. But some judges make you do that. It's fine. It's all good.
It's been like that the entire time like for years, Schuyler. I just want to make sure you know that.
Schuyler's very busy. Busy lawyer. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's supposed to have a trial. He was up late last night. He promised to join us because I want to.
But the opposition just fumbled.
Well, when he showed up in his suit, looking all
That's it.
lawyerly and stuff,
Backed right down.
this Federalist card to get in the door, they said, "Uh-oh."
Shit.
Anyways, Schuyler, I asked him to call in. He was kind enough to join us. In that there's a topic that I wanted to discuss with him, and he is he's kind of made himself a witness to it in some ways, like kind of firsthand knowledge. So, Schuyler, first of all, thanks for being here tonight, and don't talk about the topic. I'm going to come to you shortly after we finish the introductions.
Okay, it's nice to be here.
All right. And, of course, the one and only person responsible for it all, his name's Jamie Lowell. Please welcome Jamie Lowell.
Be here. I do want to point out that although that place in Hayes Park did technically get its license first, it's going to have a party. I think coming up. Calcasta is right. All
We
finishing touches on it, and it's going to be jamming real soon.
very cool.
I didn't even realize which one. I know they had an announcement, but I actually thought it may have been the Kalkaska place, which is one you're.
You know, but
all right, well, let's do this. I know we have a lot of topics to get to, but really the main discussion is this weekend's Hash Bash. 51st year of doing it, but the 50th annual or something like that, Jamie. And why don't you discuss a little bit what you know about it? You've evolved into one of the coordinators, event promoters, and it's not an easy task. First, just so people know, Planet Green Trees will be there with camera, filming, and live streaming throughout the day. And at night, in celebration, after the festivities have kind of ended in the Ann Arbor area, T-Money Green is going to be doing a practice performance, which we're going to be live streaming on Planet Green Trees, showing some highlights from the day and some of the video that's been captured. So you can look forward to that on Saturday if you like, for those listeners. But Jamie, with that said, is the Cabbage Cafe going to be broadcasting from there, or do you know of any other live streams that people could see the festivities should they not choose to attend in person?
Steve, I don't know. I'm sorry, somebody said something.
No, go ahead.
Medical Mondays is going to be at the Bash Cup, which of course is not exactly what we're talking about, but I have not heard about broadcast either. I mean, people are going to be streaming live, I've heard. I think it's one of our people from the
Jamie, your internet is weird. It's not really flowing well. Like I thought you had it fixed before. I don't know if it's an internet connection or it's just kind of.
I thought it was mine, so it's got to. It
could be us.
It's no, I'm
Go do
thinking
better.
it's him.
Better.
That's much better. It may have been the room or something. I feel like you're.
Could have been. Yeah, it could have been. I don't have my computer set up. I just got back home and I needed it for being out and about this week.
Sure. All right, that's much better. Maybe we can have Adam Hashbash Brook call in. We can get him to opine on something.
Birthday boy?
Well, that's always it's his birthday, and he's been doing that a lot. It's always, for me anyway, to hear him discuss some of the history of Hash Bash is pretty cool. Although, in terms of answering your immediate question right now about going on with Hash Bash this year, I am I kind of took the lead on the committee because some other the people that were doing that more moved out of state, and some people kind of didn't want to be involved as much. So it was kind of a transition, and I was on the committee for a while without those roles. So I just kind of stepped up and took it. We didn't get the permit until into February. So things are kind of late, but it's all coming together, and it should. It's like 2 days before it, but it's going to be the closest thing to a return to a normal Hash Bash, in my perspective, that we can do under the circumstances. and there's going to be some tribute to the history and the legacy. Adam Brooke, who we just talked about, obviously, John Sinclair. There'll be some others in there. We're going to highlight a lot of the people that have done some really good work this last year, and those in representation of groups and factions of people who have done some really good work. We've had to step up quite a bit. The big money interests have caused a lot of problems in the legislature and in local communities. And then we're going to have the forum for elected officials, and there'll be people running House seats. There'll be 3 state House reps, each of them who have introduced very positive legislation for Canada's community. And we will have the sitting Attorney General first time.
The legislators are talking about, they're talking state representatives?
Like in state representatives, there'll be 2 U.S. Congress people who have submitted statements. Debbie Dingell would have been there, but she has a Young Dems conference in Washington, D.C. the same week. So Congressperson Tlaib and Congressperson Dingell will be sending statements to be read.
All right.
And then Tom Wall and Cosmic Knot are going to take the stage. Tom, people have seen it before, I'm not sure, but it's very cool. He jams with a cannabis plant. They hook up like electrodes to it, and it puts off these electromagnetic waves that get interpreted by a machine, and it starts jamming with the music. It's really wild. And they're going to give tribute to P-Funk. The Cosmic Knot has P-Funk All-Stars in it from time to time. One of these guys, Tony, longtime guitar player, passed away a couple months ago. He's going to include some tribute to him and have like Tasha Owens and some other people there. So the music's going to be really cool, and there's no music at Monroe Street Fair.
What do you expect the contrast of the protests and having elected officials speaking or giving them that platform is prevalent. How do you reconcile those things? I mean, I know you were having the. I mean, I know. Listen,
what needs to be reconciled? I don't understand that.
Well, any of the U.S. representatives are not getting any kind of job done. It's not going to happen. It's not part of the agenda. It's not happening. And that's one of the things I want to talk to Charlotte about in a second. And, despite huge support from the existing, administration, I don't know that they have performed as expected. So I'm saying, like, reconciling those things, giving that platform as if they have, when I think it's been an afterthought. They're given a platform, and and as it turns out, many or all have been really pro cannabis or have done something positive, including Rashida Tlaib when she was running for Congress. It was part of her campaign. She can't do. I don't know what would be expected realistically for her to do something about, federal legalization or something. I know she's in support of it, and she's willing to put out a statement. So, that's fitting. I don't think that has to be reconciled with anything. Debbie Dingell's been there before and has participated in the last, couple online hash bashes. This is just an opportunity for people, in some cases, not every single person's happy with the AG's approach to cannabis. Certainly she's not shooty and, and that kind of stuff, but there are people that think more should have been done. And, it's an opportunity to be able to directly address that community, voters in that community there. So that's part of it's what it's all about. I'm not going to get somebody who's going to get up there and bitch about cannabis or say that we should be, be more restrictive or something like that. Yeah.
I'll tell you this though. Adam says that Bill Schuette wanted to speak, while he was Attorney General, he would have let him speak. And if I'm in that same situation, I say no to that. But that's okay, just for perspective. But go ahead, Amanda. I'm sorry.
All right. I was going to ask, what do you think would happen, or what do you think it would be like to have somebody that was like, of course, now that we've evolved so much, we have a whole different kind of dynamic out there in regards to attendees and speakers and things like that. So with that being said, you're going to mesh some of the old versus with some of the new. You know, you've got some of the good old boys, and you've got some of the new fresh faces that are right now in the growing industry. So there are bound to be conversations and experiences that one have had over the other, right? The ones who have been around for a minute have probably had some kind of, experiences, whether it be good or bad, with cannabis and law enforcement or the government. So what about if one of those speakers were up there and talking, and there were some, politicians or some newbies? How do you think that conversation or that speech would be received by the other person?
I don't know, but I mean, I guess I'd have to know more specifically what is being discussed and what's said, and then
perhaps
I'm sorry.
Perhaps maybe one of the topics would be like how they, the pot for potholes or something like that.
If one of the politicians is saying something like that?
No, like for instance, let's pretend it's me, and I get up there and I say, "Hey, what about the pot for potholes? There's still work to do. What do you think that the other, the other, folks, like the state officials or the local officials, the government officials, are going to feel about that? How do you think they'll feel?"
I don't know. I mean, we kind of, in some ways, we have a pot for potholes thing going on right now. Some of the funds go to transportation and roads and stuff like that. They're sales from in the legal market.
So that's probably like how they'll respond to it. Just in
many of them, quite frankly, I mean, I guess if I'm really thinking about it, there are a couple of the House reps that are a lot more in tune than a lot of other elected officials, because of how long they've been at this issue and how close they've been to a few people who really understand it and have been able to have a lot of good discussions on it. So there are a few of them out there, but by and large, most of them, even if well-intended and even if like in support in their mind and all that kind of stuff, really are ignorant to a lot of things. The existing law when it comes to cannabis, existing law, what it's all about, how it works,
What is Shooty up to these days?
I don't know. I know he thought about running for judge for a second and then didn't. That was one of the last things I heard. So,
because you know what we say about Bill Shooty.
Fuck Bill Shooty.
Fuck Bill Shooty. Yeah, it's good. Those are good memories.
Take time to do a fuck Steve Linder chant, Michael. Michael's going to be speaking at Hash Bash, everybody, too, by the way, if that.
Yeah, but did Steve Linder, I feel like he kind of got his ass handed to him. Maybe he doesn't think so.
He probably doesn't think so. He's continuing to get paid to lobby, so
yeah,
he's fine.
That's what they do. As long as they're writing a check, he's going to let you continue to kick him in the face. It doesn't matter. But
he actually was apparently, I don't know if it was all a ruse or how genuine it was, but he did approach a few people and tell them that he was really scared of, the threats he was getting from people from the community and stuff like that. He approached them, at some of the hearings and stuff and said this to them.
Well, and I don't want anybody to take this as though, I or anyone on the show condones any sort of threats or violence, but what the fuck did he think was going to happen? He's fucking with people's lives.
They are so incredibly ignorant, man. I mean, not that that's an excuse, but they really think the shit that they're doing is a good idea and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no clue. And even people with good intentions don't have a clue.
Well,
It's difficult when when you're talking about what does the politician think. There are a few that kind of understand this pretty well, but like Rep. Robbie, for example, he could have a decent discussion and get a lot more detailed than the average politician. But
yeah. Would you let Steve Linder speak, Jamie?
no. I'm sure people would encourage it though.
Yeah, I'm sure they would.
I just think that would be a stupid situation, for that environment. And maybe, a few years down the line after he has repented and, started working against the big money interests and, salvaged his soul, then maybe let him talk about that journey a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about his redemption. That'd be good. Yep. All right. Well, with that, I know Dan is pretty hot on us to take a break. I don't know what the fuck his problem is, if I'm being completely honest, but Dangerous Dan says we got to take a break. I think we got to take a break. So what do you think, Michael?
Take a break.
Take a break. You're listening to Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective. Take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
historical farm crop in American agriculture has returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Charged with a crime, you need a real attorney, and here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
Sounds like some good stuff.
All righty, we are back. Thanks for staying with us. You're listening to Planet Green Trees, episode number 555. Show title is Show Number 555.
So original.
My host, Michael Komorn. And we have some other topics we're going to get on to. Maybe Adam Brooke calls in. It's his birthday, and he can talk about Hash Bash. But for those that don't know, it begins at high noon. Is that right, Jamie? High noon?
High noon.
Uh-huh. Do we have an act for the Star Spangled Banner?
Mr. Laith El Sadi.
And-
Laith El Sadi.
And for people that may not know, I mean, if you've been in the cannabis community in Michigan for any length of time, you know our events never start on time. The Hash Bash actually starts on time, so make sure you're there at noon. And I believe there's a football game Saturday, isn't there, Jamie?
There is I forgot what it's called, but it's the spring game, or like it might be called the maize and blue game or something, where the defense plays the offense and they allow spectators in. And a lot of people come into town for that, so it's be busy in the traffic. But also, typically when that happens, and even just the last few years, police haven't really had that much of a concern about this rally at all, and they are more concerned about like that type of a thing than they are about us. So. That's good in some ways, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess my point is just show up early. Parking's going to be at a premium, so earlier, if you can get there a couple minutes early, you're going to thank yourself.
All right, so one of the things that was interesting, and I can be corrected at any of these facts, but there's a discussion in the cannabis activist community about the 2023 budget of the federal government, which would expire, I think Schaller thinks it's in September. That's when the new budget would be renewed. And the discussion that's been taking place is whether or not what has been known as the Rohrabacher Amendment or rider to the budget, later called Blumenauer's rider, was a specific part of the budget which prohibited the Department of Justice from using its budgeted funds for prosecuting and investigating and prosecuting medical marijuana patients and caregivers in compliance with state law.
Right.
And it was something that, and this was arising out of originally the Obama administration, and although repealed at some point, it was reinstated through the Trump administration and was renewed in the budget year after year, really discouraging the Department of Justice from wasting its resources on medical marijuana patients and caregivers in compliance. They had a 9-point edict that went along with that involved regulations and testing and keeping out of the hands of children and driving and illicit markets, etc. But for all purposes, the budget has been depleted for the use of these kind of prosecutions. Reminds me of a medical marijuana case that we won in federal court, arguing similar positions. It was out of the Flint district. No, it was in Bay County district. And we got a really favorable ruling on that. And it encapsulated some of those things from the Department of Justice, as well as some other Ninth Circuit cases dealing with purportedly compliant state operators and how they dealt with that. As it turns out, the proposed budget for 2023 removes this rider. Removes the rider. Whole discussion going on whether or not the budget will include the ability of the Department of Justice to go after medical marijuana patients and caregivers and people associated with it, even the regulated administrators, the regulated agencies. All those things arguably would be in play. But there was some confusion about whether or not the rider was in the budget plan for 2023, which is supposed to expire and be renewed in September. And it turns out that Schaller Engel actually called Earl Blumenauer's office and left a message. Wow. And a guy named Eli, who must be his page, called him back, reported that the rider is not included. Schaller, is this what happened?
Yeah, that's a pretty good recitation, I guess. And I mean, it depends on how you view it. I mean, the thing is, as you know, Michael, Rohrabacher Farr has been around for 8-9 years now. And, prior to that, we had the Cole memo, and they're basically kind of one and the same. That basically says the federal government won't butt its nose into what the states are doing insofar as, it's in the Cole, memo that it's not, the states don't lose control over it. And the limits of Rohrabacher-Farr have been tested since 2016. But again,
there's also the and I don't mean to interrupt you. I want you to continue on with your analysis, but just to add into the fray, there's the McIntosh cases and those cases that came out. The federal court actually addressing the Justice Department's, the Department of Justice's policy that they were not going to go after and giving like notice to people that they shouldn't worry so long as they're in. So it was meaningful in that regard. It has a lot of bite to it, interpretation wise from the court, especially what they're allowed to spend. But keep going.
So again, I haven't had to invoke these provisions in any of the cases I've handled. So I haven't even read the McIntosh opinion in probably 6 years. But in that case, the court, and it was the Ninth Circuit, only upheld that the DOJ couldn't do something because they found that McIntosh was in compliance. But since then,
they remanded it to the state court to determine that. Okay,
great, but we're really skipping ahead in the conversation. I think any listener should know basically that Rohrabacher-Farr is the only thing, or Rohrabacher-Blumenauer, whatever it's called now, is really the only thing that keeps the feds out of states, what's states' commerce that happens within the states. That's, I think, a broad, acceptable version of what it means. And in the years past, the last year, when Biden announced his budget, the rider was just simply already there. And there was an email from an email blast from an anti-marijuana group that celebrated the fact that the Biden administration had not included it. So that, to some people, might be signaling a little bit of a, hello, if we lose this, does that mean that we're in trouble? Or you could basically say, nah, the feds are nearly not going to ever do anything. And so I think it was just important to see where the actual jurisprudence on the Rohrabacher-Farr decision was. And I found this case that I wasn't aware of that came out about 2 months ago. And I don't know how to say the guy's name. I don't know if it's Bilodeau or Bilodeau, Biadow, whatever. But it's out of the First Circuit. And it, rather than the McIntosh decision, which basically says, no, this guy's in compliance, we've got a guy that's not in compliance. And so the court had to go beyond its analysis of, hey, let's just remand it to the state, and had to actually interpret, to some extent, what the prohibition on DOJ using funds was. And I only read the decision once, but the decision basically makes a lot of noise as to we're not trying to say that the only thing that the DOJ can't do is prosecute a compliant medical marijuana actor in a state in under state law, but in its decision, it basically said that they can do all those things. So it basically said that it can spend money to, I mean, it didn't say directly, but it sounds like they can spend money insofar as they are not prosecuting people. And if we lose Rohrabacher-Farr, that this decision's focused on, then it doesn't even exist at all. But anyway, so I went through like the budget appendices, and I didn't know what I was looking at because I don't look at that stuff all the time. And I was tired of basically the email chain, so I called up Earl Blumenauer's office, and they actually responded to me, to my surprise. And they basically said, yeah, we know, and we're going to take care of it. Don't you worry. Pay attention to the MORE Act. But the thing is, that's a whole different discussion, because we passed MORE in 2020, and it's more of like in my opinion, that's just more of like you know, hey, we're doing something, but we don't think it's gonna, you know, it's not gonna actually
Celebratory. Not celibacy, but celebratory.
It's gonna pass the House, but you know, great.
Right.
It doesn't
Okay.
do anything. I would think that if you were a nervous person, you know, as I assume cannabis attorneys should be, that you kind of want that protection for your compliant clients.
It's bad. And we've already seen, I mean, as much as people were hopeful that Joe Biden would bring change in this arena, he hasn't. And much to the contrary, his actions speak that he's definitely not a supporter. So yeah, it's problematic.
Well, I mean, if you remember who introduced the MORE Act in the Senate in 2020, it was Kamala Harris. So, I mean, if they're not even, I mean, maybe they got it all worked out where this is actually going to happen. And I certainly don't want to be a negative Nancy when, you know, it actually is happening. And I just don't know about it.
Yeah, maybe. Wouldn't it be nice to be wrong?
Well, if, you know, no matter what Biden does or likes about it now, if for whatever reason something gets through both houses, he's going to be compelled to sign it.
I don't know. Are you sure?
I don't know, man. That's speculating. And I don't really pay attention to the politics of it. I'm just constantly cynical about the politics. I mean,
listen.
My own personal view is the thing is there's a lot of power that is kept for these political party factions by maintaining marijuana's federal illegality. I mean, just consider how the state political parties are able to rile people up because the issue is still present because of federal prohibition. It keeps people in a myopic box that can be exploited, you know, whenever opportune. But again, that's my shtick almost at this point.
Well, listen, I think, and James, this is what I was referring to. Like, I mean, I'm not advocating for either party at all. They've both missed the boat, and they both have been supportive of prohibition from the get-go. I think there was a lot of talk and false beliefs within the. I mean, Biden never. I don't think he told anyone he's going to do it, but certainly there was the platform discussions of the party that suggested, and it seemed like there was momentum, and this would be the time and place that it would happen. I think that whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I think as we sit here today, you know, I don't think Biden's been a leader in any way of trying to bring, you know, the end of prohibition to fruition. I think he's been stalemated, if anything, not pro or against it, but just not moving on it, you know. And I think that and I think it goes to kind of just politically speaking, I think that the campaign was to try to normalize what he was arguing was the chaos that was before there, and being more central, you know, safe, what have you, seems to be the position, despite, you know, certain aspects of the party that would take a different position. But what are your thoughts on that, Jimmy? You know, I'm saying, like, I don't know that the party. This is my point about some of the candidates that are there under the auspices of reformists are. You know, they got the dominant party right now. If they wanted to pass something, they could have passed something. They can get something through if they want. Am I right about that? It's not a priority.
You're on mute.
Okay. I think they can do that in the House. It's not as easy in the Senate.
And I think that's a consensus view. So, I mean,
don't the Democrats have a majority in the Senate now?
They do, but it's there's no margin there.
Okay,
that's also true.
So they don't.
Look, I mean,
But the idea that they couldn't come to the idea, what would be the reason that any one senator would not say, based upon states' rights, let them do what they want and just leave it to that?
They hate weed, dude.
But that's not a good enough reason.
Apparently it is.
Well, I'm saying if we've gotten to this point, and that is not something that they've been educated about, that they would still hate it for whatever reason, just is absurd. It's not about hating or liking weed. It's about the injustice and human suffering that has been associated, this decimating community after community. At the end of the day, marijuana won the war on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not, and to not see this at this point means you shouldn't be a legislature. You're totally uneducated on the issue.
Right.
Another thing is, if you don't like my little power keeping for, political factions narrative, you can also think that, marijuana remaining federally illegal also benefits, frankly, the cannabis companies with the deepest pockets. I mean, they can basically keep the price of entry and go from state to state, legalizing at their leisure, and put small players out of business because of 280E, and then basically swoop up, mop up all the small players. And when they actually have control of all the state markets that they feel that is necessary to turn the switch, and then it's done. You got federal legalization, you've got consensus among state policymakers as to what systems worked, and you have the biggest players with strong footholds in each state, perhaps ready to go with interstate commerce. So the thing is, keeping marijuana federally illegal is almost a safer environment for long-term, large-scale cannabis business planning. Like the mom and pop at the whatever township in Michigan aren't thinking about those things, but the multi-billion-dollar corporations certainly are. They're thinking about what interstate commerce is going to look like whenever it happens. So there's incentives there too. It benefits a lot of the people that actually control a lot of what's going on.
I think that the prohibition at the federal level creates obviously creates this existing, roadmap, and positioning that is taking place and is being implemented. I don't know that those that are even commanding of the market that would be deemed big players would be considered big players if and when it becomes nationally legal. I think that you're dealing with a lot of people that have what most people would say is a lot of money are much more powerful with that money. And I'm not talking billions. I'm not talking like hedge fund, stock market, that kind of money. I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know you are. And I'm saying to you that those that are dominating the market now won't be big enough to compete with that. The mom and pop, of course.
I agree.
Okay.
I completely agree.
So it's and if there's going to be a chance for mom and pop, it's going to be only when there's it remains illegal federally, or they go with some kind of state law that they could do a state law rule that would not impact in the way that is feared. All right, let me say this because I know that at some point.
Really quick, this is a great transition into a newer issue, maybe.
I'm transitioning, but you want to?
Well, this hemp conversion nonsense.
Yeah, what do you want to talk? What about it?
Well, the thing is, apparently, there's a threat of a flooding of synthetic, hemp.
Right. It is not passed. You say it is not passed.
Right. So
it's being discussed.
There's an example of, potentially out of state, big volume, having a significant impact on the market that the state thought that they, or the initial bigger players thought that they were going to control. And here comes all this, penny cheap hemp THC.
Penny cheap.
I don't know.
I don't know how to say it, without, I'm trying to say it as simply as possible.
You're right. You're saying that the amount of hemp that one can grow outside for this processing and what's being described is unlimited. There's a lot of it. The price of hemp is much less than, and
much less.
Much less than. Now, I don't know that maybe it's true and it would make sense that you'd be able to interstate commerce that stuff, but I do think that the rule was that the processors would get it. They would make the CBD, extract the CBD, and from the CBD they can synthesize Delta 8, Delta 10.
Right.
That would be sold that way.
Sometimes.
There was no conclusion, I don't think. I mean, there's some discussions about it. Of course, the growing market is pissed about that, right? The licensed grower. All right, let me say this as a transition, but you're right. And here's something that's interesting, Charlotte. It's kind of in the line here, which is that just like around the time of the Hash Bash, which grows out of the Michigan Supreme Court overturning the Michigan's Controlled Substances Act surrounding the John Sinclair arrest, conviction, and sentence of 10 years in prison for selling 2 joints. And around this time, and always falling on the birthday of Hash Bash, is, and this year it happens to be 50 years ago, the first and only true blue ribbon committee on marijuana policy formally recommended to Congress regarding marijuana. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Schaefer Report, 1972. They recommend that Congress repeal federal penalties criminalizing the personal possession of marijuana. And as we talk about the illegality of it federally and all the issues here, and McIntosh and the Rohrabacher Amendment and Blumen, we can look to and be instructed by the National Commission of Marijuana and Drug Abuse issued a report, Marijuana Signal of Misunderstanding, to Congress and to Nixon administration. 9 of the members of the commission had been handpicked by Nixon, including the chair, Raymond P. Schaefer, then the governor of Pennsylvania. Members investigated for 2 years prior to reaching their conclusions. The committee rebuked claims that cannabis was a highly dangerous substance worthy of criminal prohibition. Let me restate that. The committee, for 2 years of study, handpicked Nixon persons, the chair being the governor of Pennsylvania. They rebuked the claims that cannabis was a highly dangerous substance worthy of criminal prohibition. Rather, determined the criminal law is too harsh a tool to apply to personal possession, even in the effort to discourage use. It implies an overwhelming indictment of the behavior which we believe is not appropriate. The actual potential harm of use of the drug is not great enough to justify intrusion by the criminal law into private behavior, a step which a society takes only with the greatest reluctance.
That's right.
Therefore, they recommended that marijuana for personal use not be an offense, and that the causal distribution of small amounts of marijuana for no remuneration or significant remuneration or insignificant remuneration no longer be an offense. The policy recommendation, now commonly referred to as decriminalization, acknowledged that the use of cannabis was not altogether harmless, but recognized that its potential risks to both the individual and to society were not so great as to warrant the criminal prosecution and incarceration of those who consumed it.
Yeah.
Though this recommendation was ultimately rejected by Congress, several state governments began adopting this policy in the 1970s. Today, 31 states, District of Columbia, have enacted legislation legalizing or decriminalizing the possession of marijuana for adults. The commission recommended to end marijuana possession arrest was totally unexpected at the time, with most observers anticipating the commission reinforcing Nixon's exaggerated fears of marijuana to continue to support criminal prohibition. The report was truly groundbreaking then, and it has stood the test of time and remains pertinent now.
Mm-hmm. It does. But what did our government do?
Since the recommendations by the commission, an estimated 30 million Americans have been arrested for violating state and federal marijuana laws. Over 80% of those arrested over these past 5 decades were prosecuted for offenses related to personal possession of cannabis, the very activities that the commission demanded be decriminalized.
Yeah. So instead of turning it down, they turned it up. Instead, we have a report that says this is a bad idea,
Nixon says, quote, "By God, we're going to hit the marijuana thing, and I want to hit it right square in the puss." Back in those days.
Oh
it was
my!
like
Oh my! Richard Nixon. Who would have thought?
So what does this mean? So I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't know. It's, I guess the. It's good that no one's that I mean, I guess fewer people are getting arrested, at least in Michigan, right? That's good.
Yeah, it is good.
I think a lot of people are upset the implementation of the tax and regulate.
I mean, are they?
Well,
I mean, I know that there's lots of people in the community, in our community, that are, and they have good reason to be, and I get it. I totally get it.
I kind of am too, because I think that
I'm talking. You're included.
There's less talented quality of cannabis.
Right, but do you think?
I'm going to say.
Do you think like the typical cannabis user that
I'm allowed to have my own opinion?
I totally.
My opinion is going to be
But
unique.
you said that you think that people are, and I'm just saying, by and large, I think that people are happy with the progress that's been made. Now, could there be improvement? Yes, and I mean the Schaefer report is kind of a good preview into our future, right? Because when you talk about things like the state police study on operating while, quote unquote, intoxicated by marijuana, and all these tests they did in their committee's report that a per se limit couldn't be established. And you ask yourself, well, what's the government going to do? Are they going to listen to the committee that they chartered, or are they going to just kind of go off the rails and do their own thing because that's what they want to do? That could make life bad. So the fight's not over.
Jeff Frazier just joined, someone that actually knows what he's talking about.
I hear and agree completely, man.
That
Jeff,
you're talking about.
Have you been listening, Jeff, or not? Do we have to? We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Schaefer reports and its rejection in light of the Hash Bash, which is coming up, talking about that, and also the 2023 budget seems to not reauthorize the rider for the Blumenthal / Rohrabacher rider. It seems to be out of the budget. Schuyler actually called and spoke to the.
I mean, I don't exactly talk to government or politicians ever.
Oh, please.
And I did on this one.
Whatever, Schuyler.
Excluding your Federalist meetings.
And his little golf trips, softball. Yeah.
What did they say?
A staff member named Eli was
Page.
very educated on it, and he told me not to worry, that Earl Blumenauer is aware that it's not included, and he'll just simply add it when it comes time to add it, when it goes through Congress. So, I mean...
Did he tell you to chill out?
How did it get removed? How did it get removed? How did it get removed? Like, how does that get cut out?
Well, that's the thing is, like, they just it might not be a big deal at all. But the thing is, if Rohrabacher went away, I think it might be a big deal. I mean, maybe they don't do anything at all. Maybe it's just, there's plenty of lines in our codes that no one even knows exist. So maybe it's just forgotten about. But the DOJ does prosecute marijuana people all the time, obviously. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, there's a case.
I'm not trying to rehash this.
There's a case that out of the First Circuit, Jeff, that rejects the whole McIntosh compliance with state law.
It doesn't reject it. It goes further because it
splits the baby.
In McIntosh, they found that the person was compliant, so couldn't be prosecuted. In this case, they found that the person was hilariously not compliant, and so the court had to determine what the rider actually prohibited. And in doing so, it made a big deal out of the fact that it doesn't prohibit simply just not prosecuting compliant people, but it didn't really say what those things were. But it did say that the DOJ certainly could spend funds on all of these other things involving marijuana, So I don't know. Maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe the MORE Act passes. I don't think so.
I'm sure that's how it'll work out.
You don't want to lose Rohrbacher. I mean, that's been like federal policy for 8 years plus or whatever it is.
Could you imagine?
Let me ask you this: does that rider prevent a DEA agent from being a witness in the prosecution of a state crime?
So that's a great question, and I hold on. I can just read it to you. Give me a second. I'll find it and I'll get you. No dead air.
All right,
no, we can wait, Schuyler.
Yeah, I hope that you have an answer because I just argued that.
No pressure.
Well, where'd you argue it?
In the court here in Texas.
In federal court, federal district, right?
No, well, I didn't argue it yet. I filed they listed a DEA agent as a witness in a state marijuana prosecution, and I moved to strike the witness because he can't be involved with the prosecution for state legal for the simple reason that the guy's presumed innocent.
Well, so in the
what state? Texas.
So the first
is it state legal there? Or medical?
There's medical and imp.
And they can't tell the difference.
So the first circuit determined that, based on the arguments of this Billabong fellow that he made, the court denied all of his arguments as to what the rider prohibited. And the things that it prohibited was a general, and the amicus argued it too, that the rider must be read to preclude the DOJ under most circumstances from prosecuting persons who possess state licenses to partake in medical activity. So first they argued there's a broad prohibition on prosecuting it. And again, the First Circuit said, no, there's some exceptions, of course. Sure. And then it goes on.
Marijuana.
And then it goes on to where they argue that the prohibition must be read as not allowing the funding of the government's expenditures, and would want to enjoin them. But they said, we agree that the appropriations rider does not bar the pending federal prosecution of the defendants. Suffice it to say, nothing in this opinion suggests that fact-finding by the district court in this challenge to the government spending will be preclusive or even admissible in the ensuing criminal trial. So I think your answer is that they can use sorts of evidence that come from federal investigations. But they, again, like McIntosh, it seems that the only thing it is once it's established that the person was compliant, there can't be a federal prosecution. I can send you the opinion. And again, the court does this whole rigmarole about how it must mean more than simply just can't prosecute federal prosecutions, but then it spends the rest of the opinion telling us why all of defendants and the amicus brief are wrong.
All right, please send me that. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's like it's like 40 days old now. So yeah.
All right. Hot tamales.
Yeah.
So they cannot call him as a witness.
That's my story.
No.
I'm sticking to it.
They can or cannot, Shelley. What was the answer?
We affirm that these prosecutions may proceed unimpeded by the rider.
Yeah.
These were federal prosecutions, right?
This made it, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a direct answer to your state thing, but you can't say that the court said what they can't do. All they said is what the rider doesn't mean.
Right. Right. Well, I'd love to take a look at that thing.
Yeah, I'll send it right now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what? No, I'm done. I mean,
we got to take a break anyway, Schuyler. So that's fine. So,
Thank you.
What do you think, Michael?
Take a quick break and come back and have some final thoughts.
Some final thoughts on Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting into farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
All right, Man is in Love. That's what we found out from that last break.
Yeah.
We're back.
Again.
Right. And it's all regional. Okay. So we were talking about this federal stuff, and well, I mean, it's silly, right? Because here we are, 2022. We're celebrating the Schaefer report and its rejection, which said, no, don't go there. And, we're splitting hairs about, hemp, marijuana, cannabis, sativa. It's just silly. But who would have ever thought, right? Especially even in the 70s, there's that famous story from the attorneys from Michigan. I mean, from the National Normal that set up shop during this is the first renegade lobbyist Normal, because it was illegal. They're lobbying for the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
And there's that famous story that they were, partying at the lobby house, and
I've heard that story.
it was about to get passed, Jimmy Carter administration, and
Yep.
some bad things happened at the house, and then they decided not to. They lost their footing in their policies. But Jamie, what do you think? You think there's any chance that the current administration is going to get any action taken care of here, any progress, or do you think that we have to wait?
Yeah, there's a chance because there's a big push to do something. There's some other stuff in the Senate that's supposed to be introduced, and there's people that are really making a push to do it before the end of the year. But so there's a chance. But I don't think anything's going to happen.
By chance, he means it's definitely not going to happen, Michael.
Oh. So let's talk about, there's a lot of different topics. I'm just going to throw out there the magic mushroom issue, which is that
it's a good
there's
one.
a statewide ballot effort that's underway.
There is.
There's been the city of Ann Arbor passed?
Ann Arbor. I think
Detroit.
Hazel Park did.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's 3 cities, I think. Detroit is one of them, or no?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So what's also interesting about it is, unlike cannabis, psilocybin and MDMA are in phase 2 clinical trials of the federal government.
Right. Yes.
And
Are they still Schedule 1?
They are.
They are. But they're at phase 2 of the and ironically, many people know this, but the state of Michigan is a safe tri-state.
It is.
Which means that you're allowed to utilize this as a medicine, both MDMA and psilocybin, in circumstances that for medical purposes. Now, how you establish that are really the challenge, but I do think that if following the guidelines used in the current studies, that methodology, which would have to be done by a psychologist or psychologist even, but because they're at the phase 2 status, it means that they've already produced a phase 1 status of a protocol associated with the use of it. It's gotten to the phase 2 clinical trials, continuing on protocol. So that is where you draw your structure for how this process would take place. And oddly, much of it deals with like in-person oversight of the use of the cannabis in a setting at the doctor's office.
Yeah, but that's not atypical for a study like this.
No. Well, that's what they're doing now, making it medical. Ironically, the reports, most of the reports are that there's no reported issues, right? There's no deaths, obviously.
From cannabis, I would hope not.
No, I'm talking about from the
psilocybin and the MDMA.
The MDMA, right?
Yeah, I would expect.
Well,
so. Yeah.
We would expect so, but
certainly from the psilocybin. Now, the MDMA. Now, it's a controlled source. So yeah, I guess you would assume that it would be safe, right?
Well, I guess
I would assume that it's going to be deadly and
right because Schedule 1.
Fair enough. That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it might be a little bit of fun then.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic because Michigan is unique in that regard that it's a safe tri-state that defines those things that are at the very stage of treatment. I think ketamine may even be on that list. Ketamine. But
by the way, they're doing those nowadays. There's ads and stuff for these doctors' offices that will you just get a consultation and they'll give you ketamine treatments.
Yeah, I've read about that.
Depression and stuff.
It's IV drip.
Don't end up in the K-hole, man.
Yeah.
So
well, just make sure you can get out.
Yeah, that's right.
We're back to
bring a ladder.
We're back to the other issue, which is sourcing for the medical
for the psilocybin. Just go to Ann Arbor. Haven't you seen these ads they have on the street for delivery services? Like they've got a whole underground market going on over there. That's really it's been fun to kind of watch.
I don't know if if the federal government's watching a clinician in some regard.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you're not going to be protected in federal court if you got a state.
Well, it's the same thing with marijuana, right?
Yeah, but there's no Rohrabacher amendment yet for this.
Well, there's about to not be one for marijuana either. So,
right. But I'm saying the concerns for the physician.
Yes, they're significant
because they're not just doing a recommendation; they're actually potentially sourcing it.
Oh, they can't do that.
Well. How are you going to do
that would be foolish.
phase 2 clinical trials that mirror the federal government studies, which are, in fact, obtaining your dose from your
Well, I assume these
clinician.
phase 2 clinical trials are, endorsed by the federal government.
They're clinical trials.
Yeah, and they have to go to the DEA.
They've passed phase 1.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they do that. I think they're doing their own. They've gotten permission to do the studies, obviously.
Right. So it's not an issue. And
they may be sourcing it. I understand.
They're operating in an area that a normal doctor would be unable to operate in.
This sounds very cliche, but I heard that U of M is undergoing some of these studies as well. Nothing to do with cannabis, by the way. U of M is not touching cannabis. This is all rumor and speculation. I can't confirm. But I've been told that they are doing some studies with MDMA, and they've sourced it from a German lab. Doesn't it sound cliche?
Yeah, a little
in a
bit.
way? I don't know.
A little bit. But I mean, whatever. Like it's good that they're actually studying this stuff. The idea that most of the substance, why maybe not most, but certainly a lot of the substances at Schedule 1 don't belong there, and they deserve a deeper look.
Jeff Frazier can't understand how they're doing clinical trials if it's Schedule 1. How could that be?
That's a good question.
Now,
it's a great question.
Men at work, how could that be now?
Yeah.
Right? Remember that?
Do. Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. But
Tyler, I just sent you a case that Michael has, Lievas. It's a Sixth Circuit opinion that took away prosecutorial immunity and police immunity under 1983, where the police and the labs couldn't tell the difference between hemp and marijuana, and yet turned a blind eye to it and got search warrants and arrested people nonetheless, knowing full well that they couldn't prove that it was a controlled substance. They couldn't prove whether it was hemp or not. And they allowed 1983 actions to go forward against the cops and the prosecutor.
Shella, the case is sent to you to review, but also conditioned upon implementing to some of the complaints we've been working on.
Yeah. I mean, imagine it's precisely the crime lab case, what it was. So they said, we don't know whether it's from plant or whether it's synthetic. So we're going to turn a blind eye to it and get all these search warrants and arrest and seize and forfeit and all that kind of shit. So we may, in the proper case, keep an eye out for having 1983 act. Take a look at that case. See if I'm reading it right.
It's a long read, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks. No, I saw it. That's. I mean, they must have had the prosecutor, explicitly saying these things in order to.
No, you know what they did? It was they raided a CBD store under the pretext that when we get in there and get all the stuff, we're going to know that it's not CBD. It's really marijuana.
Yeah, we'll just smell it.
No.
Well, no.
It was a cart shop and stuff like that. So the premise of them going in was faulty. That the advertisement that we're doing CBD here.
Yeah. That we'll find the weed.
No, that the CBD really wasn't CBD, but it was more than.
So it was they were spiking the CBD with the THC.
That was the legal.
I see.
Presumption that was something that they could not prove at the lab. They still can't quantify the amount of THC. So the premise that we believe and have probable cause in our warrant that we can go in and raid, because when we get in there and seize all their products and send it to the lab, it's going to show they got 9.0% THC instead of the 0.3% they're allowed.
I see.
Right, but what I was saying is, like, to sue a prosecutor, you have to show, like, he was intentionally suborning perjury.
That's what they did in this case.
Yeah, they turned
I know. That I'm saying
it's absolute immunity, not even qualified immunity. Prosecutors absolute immunity within the field of their duties.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That sounds like a pretty crazy case. It sounds like some real wrongs were done there.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah.
I haven't. It looks like a long read. I'm not reading it tonight. So, but thanks for sending it.
Keep an eye out. There'll be a case.
Here. The
whenever the lawyers get going, they don't stop.
Well, no, because it's all billable, Shiler. It's all billable.
We're billing for that.
We're gonna bill somebody. It's gonna be good.
Give me a matter number.
Oh, it's good. I saw today that our buddy from Warren, Jim Fouts, had a preliminary injunction granted against him.
For what?
Apparently, he was spending money for this downtown development association thing, and he wasn't supposed to do that. Apparently, is what I read. Yeah, so he had a preliminary injunction granted against him. But they've been in court over their marijuana ordinance nonstop for like the last 5 years, and I think that all started with Michael, reaming out the city council, and they decided to do a bunch of dumb shit anyway. But
I think we all took a turn on that.
we did. did.
I mean, yeah.
But the city council's brand new now, so I don't know. We'll see. They got rid of most of the old folks.
Here's some information about psychedelics. U.S. law classifies entheogenic plants and magic mushrooms as Schedule 1 drugs.
Schedule 1. No medical value.
Banned because they're considered no medical use and pose a high risk for abuse.
Yeah.
However, recent studies show that psychedelics can be harmless and even beneficial when taken in combination with therapy.
Oh.
Psychedelics made their way to Western society in 1938 when Swiss chemist Albert Hofmann started experimenting with LSD, a synthetic chemical made from a substance found in ergot, a fungus.
Fungi.
In 1960, the pharmaceutical company Hoffman worked for sent psychedelics to Harvard psychologist Timothy Leary.
Yeah.
That started a bunch of shit,
It's a good
didn't
place to send it.
By the early 1970s, psychedelics were massively popular among young people, which triggered a backlash from the FDA and
they
from
were
the
not happy about
the federal government outlawed the use of psychedelics and shut down all research related to them.
They did.
In 1971, the Journal of American Medical Association warned that repeatedly using psychedelics would result in permanent personality deterioration.
Yeah.
However, future research would show those fears were exaggerated.
Yeah.
Such studies prompted the FDA to approve several psychedelic study programs, such as the Johns Hopkins Center for Psychedelic and Consciousness Research, which has shown there are medical benefits to taking entheogenic substances. In 2000, Johns Hopkins obtained regulatory approval to research psychedelics, and 6 years later, the center published its first study on the safety and positive impacts of psilocybin, which is found in magic mushrooms. Since then, Hopkins researchers have published more than 60 studies demonstrating the therapeutic benefits that safe doses of psychedelics can have on people suffering from depression, Alzheimer, addiction. I read addiction to tobacco.
Yeah, I've heard all types of addiction. I've heard that it can have a positive impact on cluster headaches, which are debilitating from what I've been told. So I think that, the medicinal value is real and it demands more research. And certainly if an institution like Johns Hopkins is saying that, then I think it deserves a little, deeper dive.
Here we go. So the New England Journal of Medicine published psilocybin helpful for depression, Journal of Nature Medicine on MDMA, also known as ecstasy for severe PTSD. According to the research from the National Library of Medicine, psychedelic drugs can be used to treat illness such as depression, addiction, anxiety, PTSD. However, a direct link between these drugs and treating the illness is lacking. Even so, Tupper, or what is known that using the psychedelics while undergoing psychotherapy has helped people overcome their mental illness and trauma. What are they doing in Canada, Jim? Well, the government there in Canada allows qualified patients to use these drugs for therapeutic and medical purposes.
Mm-hmm.
The psychotherapy process is broken into 3 phases: preparation, treatment, and integration, according to the spokesperson for the TherapSil, a nonprofit that helps Canadians access psilocybin-assisted therapies, psychotherapies. They say that the preparatory stage is used to gauge what issues may come up during the treatment and build trust. Treatment begins once the patient is comfortable and in the presence of 2 psychotherapy sitters. Integrating the psychedelic experience into one's life is often the most important impact part of the psychedelic psychotherapy process. That might include having patients journal their thoughts on treatment, noticing shifts in their views or habits. What are the health risks?
Good.
According to the 2018 National Health Stats, 2013 Hospital Health data, about 600 of 87,000 emergency department visits involving substance used hallucinogens. 600 of 87,000.
687,000.
600 of 87,000.
Okay, that's better.
It's less than.
It's very small.
There's no documented case of fatalities as a result of overdosing on psilocybin mushrooms or entheogenic plants, according to the American Addiction Centers. There's also no reports of physical dependence on these drugs. But like marijuana or alcohol, the use of substances like mushrooms can cloud judgment. I don't know. Okay. I'm reading from this. That's not my thought. These substances also can be dangerous.
You don't think mushrooms can cloud someone's thoughts? I mean, I think that's a fair statement.
Well, not like marijuana.
Well,
maybe.
No, marijuana.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're saying like marijuana and alcohol, but like marijuana and alcohol, the use of these substances can cloud judgment. I'm not saying that mushrooms might not cloud judgment, but I wouldn't compare it to marijuana.
No, I don't. That's true.
Maybe it clouds judgment like alcohol, right? And I think also they probably become dangerous when used with other drugs. Like, you know, that night, Jim, you were telling me about with the mushrooms, this acid and the MDMA and the ketamine.
I don't.
Just kidding. I'm joking. That would not be a good cocktail, right? That's not what we're not mixing these things. These are like, you know, for medical purposes or whatever. But Tiber said the tools, like any other tool, they can have positive effects and negative. Okay. So what I think is interesting is, I don't know. I mean, I've watched. I've been looking at this a little bit and interested about the new medical treatments and what impact they're going to have, and also the implementation of it as it's being accepted, and what is the rules that are going to get people in trouble if not followed. But I see that. I mean, in that regard, there's certain jurisdictions that I think put you in a safer place than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't even know that the Hazel Park and Detroit. I don't know. I mean, I think the fact that Eli Savitt has sworn him off is
it's a big deal.
Big deal. But they could still, I guess, charge under local ordinance or if there's some kind of thing like that, but or some misdemeanor. But it's interesting. I wonder if they're. I guess we got to look at some of the studies with the microdosing issues of a treatment with microdosing versus what they say is a more heroic dosing. Jamie, what do you say about that?
About the different ways of taking the huge dose for some reasons and then microdosing.
Well, I'm saying, they're not. And again, the next time we talk about this, I'll examine the literature, some of these Johns Hopkins studies and whatnot. But I'd be curious to know if the therapy involves a microdosing, which would seemingly not require the type of oversight associated with what I would describe as a more heroic dose.
A heroic dose.
It doesn't require oversight, no. but they, you know, they provide different types of therapies for different reasons for different people, different times, and both good. You know, if, from my understanding, I haven't gotten into it very deeply. I've microdosed for a little while, cranked it up a little bit, but I haven't like done, you know, one of these kind of like larger doses and been guided by somebody at Hash Bash. The decrim, a lot of the decrim people will be there. Jim Lame and Julie Barron and Mike Williams, Mycophile, will all be speaking, and Julie engages in that kind of therapy. So really, find out a lot about it on Saturday.
Yep. Jeff, you got any thoughts on that? How soon till Texas psilocybins?
I don't think that's on the radar, but I'll tell you what, Texas has surprised me before.
Is Texas a safe tri-state?
I doubt it very seriously, but I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know. It's kind of got a, you know, don't tell me what to do. If I want to risk it, I'm going to try it.
Yeah, long hairs, hippies, progressives.
Is that what that is? What about, I mean, the idea, you know, the idea of it, when, you know, the idea of the safe tri-state, it was not born out of the, you know, a caveat for using cannabis or mushrooms, or it was for, you know, some other obscure treatments that, I don't know. I mean, you know, like it probably was cannabis, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, but the idea was that, you know, it kind of, you know, it was kind of like the way I would describe what a physician's doing in a medical marijuana recommendation. They recommend that, you know, they're going to recommend, even if it's dangerous, whatever, that, you know, yes, you should recommend, we have that conversation. They're not going to take you there to get it, though. And, you know, if they tell you, you know, in the consultation, you know, there's a study that says go out into the hallway and bang your head against the wall, or go home and bang your head against the wall. That's, you know, they're discussing that with them. It's their choice if they want to take the recommendation or not. The doctor certainly wouldn't be the one banging their head into the wall for them, right?
I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying that and that's a big difference here with the physicians interacting. I do think that it may not even need to be physicians. It may not be physicians. It may be state licensed therapists, right? Although John Hopkins are doctors, psychiatrists. I don't know. We'll see. Got to do a little more research to what the depth of the
medical talent.
Yeah.
What the credentials are of these people.
Well, what the drive is on the. What the drive is for the interaction with the patients. Is it medical doctors, or is it therapists that are?
Well, no, I'm sure it's therapists, I would assume. I mean, but
John Hopkins is medical doctors.
Although I'm certain they have a you know, psychology school.
Yeah, but the study is being done by doctors.
Yeah, but they're probably psychiatrists.
Right, okay, but that's a big difference than a therapist.
Yeah, but the two go hand in hand.
Not, I mean,
in most instances, you have a psychiatrist that's overseeing the medication that's being prescribed to the patient, and that psychiatrist is working directly with the psychologist,
maybe,
who's providing ongoing therapy.
Maybe sometimes I don't know.
Very rare. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there are certainly instances where you know, psychotherapeutic drugs are just prescribed. But in a clinical setting with a psychiatrist, typically there's some associated psychotherapy that's taking place, either being given by they certainly could be given by the psychiatrist. It's just typically not.
I bet that there's a scenario where people are on, what is the, you know, like maybe benzos, you know, like the
Xanax.
Xanax. So Xanax. So people get a Xanax prescription that they just keep refilling.
That's how it used to be. I don't think that.
Maybe they meet with the doctor every few months to get a renewal, right? Some kind of check-in, whatever. But they're not in therapy.
But most of the times when that was occurring, they were going to like a general practice physician, and I'm telling you, most times if you go and see a psychiatrist and you tell them that you need medication, and they figure out that you need medication, I I have seen very few instances where the next thing that comes out of their mouth is, okay, we're going to get you scheduled up with the psychologist and you're going to undergo psychotherapy.
You think that is or is not?
No, that's what happens.
I disagree. I think the difference is this. You when you're being treated with medication, that's the cure.
Oh.
Either treat you with the medication or they treat you with maybe a combination of both. But I'm saying to you, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't. Imagine if they think they get the medication working, then they're not calling you back in
for some patients.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, once they're stabilized, right?
Yeah, I think like for liability purposes, the doctors probably don't want to.
Yeah, they check in with
somebody that continue to write them scripts, and they don't know enough about mental health to be able to. They're not trained in that area.
Who? The doctors?
The general practice.
Regular doctors.
Yeah. Right. But I'm saying that the psychiatrist that writes the script for your benzos or what have you knows what the ups and downs are. Like on the back of the physician desk reference or the literature that comes with the pharmaceutical company that sold them that brand.
Yep.
At those check-ins would be like, are you eating well? Are you?
I get it.
Sleeping well? Any signs of rage? Or just like they would any other. How's the medication working for you? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Okay, great. We'll see you in 3 months or 6 months or whatever. Right? It may not involve therapy. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's true. I agree with that. That therapy and psychiatry are two very different things.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes
they work different. I agree they're different. I'm just saying that in my travels around around town and interacting with members of my family and friends that have sought to seek or have sought mental health treatment, that when they've gone to a psychiatrist, they've been evaluated, and the next call they're not forced to make, but told to make by the psychiatrist is you're scheduling an appointment with the psychologist. And certainly at a point where they feel that the condition is well managed, maybe they'll back off on that. But it just has not been my experience. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but
listen, I think because a lot of it depends on the diagnosis, right? You can have someone that's got depression, and they need a therapist. You may have someone that has anxiety. Right.
Yeah, maybe it's not as big a deal. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm saying it's any less or worse, but I don't know that. I mean, maybe going to a therapist helps them with their anxiety, but it's a different. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know,
there
man.
are probably variables that.
We could talk all about a lot of those drugs.
It's very speculative. And we're all speculating, but I think it's fascinating. The whole new, more Mother Earth medicine ways of treating. And
I think it's good. It's good to have options. I don't think people's options should be limited. And we talk about right to try, and a big champion for that type of legislation was actually Brian Calley. And for the autistic community, he brought treatment that, or advocated for treatment, I should say.
Well, what he did is they passed really comprehensive legislation that prohibited insurance companies from denying coverage for non-FDA approved treatments.
Yeah.
And it may have been something like this as long as it was a phase 2 clinical trials, they were forced to pay that.
Yes.
But it also interestingly bred a whole series of BCBA and whole new kind of new therapy.
Yeah.
Which
and some of it's good, some of it maybe not as good. But hey, I mean, it's options, right? And I'll tell you, as a parent of a sick child, that it's good to have options, and it's good to, if one thing maybe doesn't work for you, maybe another will, and it doesn't have to work for everybody. So I think ultimately allowing patients and their caregivers and guardians and doctors to make those decisions is a good thing.
All right, I think it's time. We're going to wrap it up, I think. Do we have it all together? Jamie, I want to give you, Jeff, and Amanda, and Jim, I want to give you guys some last final thoughts, parting thoughts. Someone jump in with that, please.
I hope everybody has an amazing time on Hash Bash this weekend, and I will be there in spirit with you all. And it was a great show.
Hash Bash.
Jamie, you got some? You got some final thoughts? Hash Bash?
Hash Bash this weekend.
All right.
High noon.
Watch it live on Planet Green Trees.
Yes.
Live feed.
So live.
Jamie, are you the MC? No, you're the host? What do you call yourself? Never mind if you don't want to.
He's responsible for everything. That's what he is.
Host with the most.
I'm facilitating a lot of it, but it's set up so that there's different people introducing speakers. I mean, I am introducing a couple speakers, but I'm facilitating. I'm not really, I mean, there's not a particular MC because there's so many different people introducing the speakers. And that was a way to get more people involved. Give some other people a chance to participate who have done some good work this last year. But there's only so many slots and only so much
Okay, that's good. Good.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
That's right. All right. Shiloh, any final thoughts? You're muted.
April Fool's Day tomorrow, so watch out for
Fools.
Funny people.
That's so funny. I saw this this M Street Baking Company that's in Howell. So Esteban probably knows exactly what I'm talking about when you guys see him next. But M Street Baking Company, they had this April Fool's cupcake, and it looked like hot dogs or something like that, and it totally looked like that, but it's like a cake. So it's like for an April Fool's Day thing, you get somebody.
I hear the House is gonna vote to pass the legalization of marijuana on April Fool's Day. I'll let it go. All right. Have a good night. That's it for me.
Thank you. From the Federalist Society. Jeff, what do you have to say?
Nothing but great. The plain smell test is dead. It should be dead. It must be dead.
Because THC is odorless.
That's right. Nothing new.
Nothing new.
Congratulations on 50 years.
Of what, the Schaefer report or the Hash Bash? Yeah, the Hash Bash.
Yeah, both.
For sure. Going to be wild. It's always a good time, and it is kind of a representation of freedom. It's always good to look out, and I think people have been looking for a gathering, right? It's been a long time since people have been able to get together, and no better way to spread a virus than to stand within 6 feet of each other and passing joints back and forth. So,
better mask up.
From what I understand, this is going to be
wait, what did Jamie say?
a lot of first. Just what I'm checking out on social media and stuff. The Hash Bash.
Your main point of what you just said was not heard. Say it again.
Just what I've noticed on social media and stuff, this is going to be a lot of people's first Hash Bash.
Ah, I see. Sure. I guess one of the things to think about would be introducing the concept of the Jim. How do you say it? Is it the Jamaican? What do you call that?
Yeah, it's Jamaican style.
Jamaican style. Jamie, why don't you explain for the listeners what Jamaican style is as a public service announcement of how to be respectful and health conscious of when you are at an event that is smoking marijuana in public?
I always call it Chuck Reaming it because he's always been kind of insistent on that, starting off like while driving so that nobody's passing joints around so it doesn't look suspicious. But it's the concept of just smoking from a joint. And I thought the same thing long before COVID kind of forced the issue a little bit. There's a lot of cannabis around and a lot of people like different things. And, just hang out in a circle and smoke whichever joint that you want to smoke or give somebody one to smoke while you're smoking it with them. And I kind of appreciate that way of doing it. Although, not against sharing a joint from time to time either, but you smoke your own joint.
I know what you're saying, and I think in light of everything around, and I'm not opposed to that either, but I just for the sake of cultural, it has always been the connecting thing where people share and, pass back and forth. Obviously, health was not, the passing of disease in that situation is always, someone's licked the wrapper sometimes before you get it, you know what I mean? But that is one of the things that's part of the culture. It's always been, right? Jim?
Yeah.
Jamie? You can't deny that. You're kind of stealing the culture. It's okay. It makes sense, I think. And I was the one that brought up the idea. Is there another name for it? It sounds like it's, I'm saying it inappropriately. Jim, what are we going to call it?
That's what it's called.
Pass the dutchie from the left-hand side.
Yeah. Maybe it's Chuck Ream in it. Sounds like it's a dirty word in a way, but it's from Chuck Ream. That's fine.
It's not. I mean, the one guy I know that always was going Jamaican style, well, almost always, was Steve Sharp, man. He was famous for that shit.
Was he?
Yeah.
He's like, you want to smoke my joint here? Why don't I
give you one?
Right, why don't I just give you one?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I understand.
Sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But
I regret not thinking of it sooner. With Hash Bash going mainstream, somebody should have tried to monetize, proof of attendance via an NFT, Amanda. Just put it up behind everyone. You scan the QR code and you pay your money to prove that you were there. 50th anniversary. Well, we're late. We screwed up. We're idiots.
Well, there's always next year, right?
Yeah. Well, you get on that now. I'm just saying, you might as well monetize it. All right.
I want in on that. I'm gonna I'll make sure that I'm contributing to that. Amanda, you feeling me?
And Shyler gets a cut too.
No, maybe.
We'll cut him out.
Maybe.
I always get cut out.
No, you don't. I'm kidding. All right, listen. Cannajam, October 8th. Don't forget that. Shyler will be performing a stand-up act
That'll be
about
good.
the Federalist Papers.
It'll be good.
I can play the keyboard.
Can you?
All right. A little bit. Not enough.
All right,
All
good.
right. Good
You
night.
got enough time to get your fingers loosened up, get your keys going. By then, you'll be like Beethoven.
No. I'll play.
Jamie, where would Shyler complain to because there's no prog rock at the Hash Bash? Where would he complain about that?
Hey, Jamie's gone.
Okay.
He's had enough.
All right, fine.
I'll do the same.
All right, prog rock. Shyler.
I'm happy to see that come back. All right. See you later.
All right. All right, everyone, be safe.
Bye,
We'll
guys.
talk with you next week. Good night, Amanda. Good night, Jeff.
Good night.
Be safe, guys.
Shut it down, Tommy.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective. Take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective. Take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
I am attorney Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLC, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting into farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.